What is good? What is up? It's your Texans Thoughts, and we're back with another film breakdown. Been a minute since I've done one of these, but it's what really, got my channel started, and I know you guys love them. So if you enjoy this breakdown on Derek Stingley and want to see more, hit that like button, subscribe for more content. We're on the road to 6K subs, and we're so close. Love to hit it soon. And lastly, comment down below which new Texan you would like to see a film breakdown on next. Alright guys, let's get into the film of Derek Stingley Jr. because the film don't lie. Stingley is a scary prospect for many reasons, but first and foremost because of just how dominant he was versus SEC competition as an 18-year-old true freshman. The ball production he put up is pretty unprecedented at his young age, and Stingley's ball skills are easily his biggest strength that need to be highlighted. This interception versus Georgia in 2019 is the quintessential example of how Stingley plays football. LSU drops into a cover 4 look, and Stingley essentially has one-on-one coverage with the Z wide receiver on the field side. Stingley is playing soft press, meaning he won't jam the wide receiver at the line and try and get a hand on him to alter the release. Instead, because we are in zone coverage, he's going to keep his eyes on the quarterback, see if they're going to quickly wind up for a quick throw, and then, if that's not coming, he'll move his eyes to the wide receiver and mirror the release outside. From this trailing position, it seems like the wide receiver has a slight advantage on Stingley because if he's even, he's leaving. But Stingley is baiting this throw the entire way. He has good deep speed and accelerates to get back into position for the interception. Stingley is so good at defending deep down the sideline because he knows how to expertly squeeze the wide receiver's space, box them out, and then win the 50-50 ball. Look at how Stingley squeezes the wide receiver down the sideline like a seasoned NFL veteran. Off the release, the wide receiver has about 5 yards between themselves and the sideline. But as Stingley keeps hand fighting and sticking into the wide receiver's hip pocket, now at the catch point, the wide receiver barely has a yard between him and the sideline. By squeezing the amount of space the wide receiver has to work with, Stingley raises the odds he has to make a play on the ball, as this is now all Stingley's space instead of the wide receiver's. Stingley is at his best when defending deep routes down the sideline because he knows how to use the sideline as an extra defender. He makes wide receivers really work for the catch and force them to have perfect toe drag swag, or else you ain't catching it, bud. Stingley pairs his elite ball skills with freaky athleticism, and these turnovers don't just show up in press coverage. Stingley flashes potential in off coverage too. In 2019 versus Georgia again, the offense motions the wide receiver from a wide split to a numbers split, and that changes Stingley's coverage technique from press to off coverage. The offense tried to put Stingley in a technique that most believe he's less comfortable in, but his raw explosiveness and closing speed is just too much. As soon as the wide receiver turns his head on this speed out, Stingley reacts to it, plants his back foot, exploding off of it and flying forward to eliminate the separation the wide receiver and quarterback thought they had. Yes, the throw is a bit inside, it's not a perfect throw, but this is a play that 99% of 18-year-olds cannot make. Stingley is just different. He's so good at baiting throws and capitalizing on mistakes. Stingley is going to fit in perfectly with Lovie Smith's philosophy to force turnovers, and he's going to help out the Texans offense by giving them more possessions. So we can appreciate Stingley's elite ball skills, explosive athleticism, and ability to defend deep routes by using the sideline as an extra defender. His 2019 was special for a true freshman. And don't get me wrong, but there are multiple reasons I have for concern, which is what also makes him a scary prospect. Before we get into, what happened in 2020 and 2021, I do want to note that, Stingley's 2019 wasn't all perfect and he has some refining to do. A lot of people are acting like, if Stingley, all he needs to do is play like the 2019 version of him and boom, we've got an all-pro. But that 2019 version relied a ton on instincts and athleticism rather than, refined technique and nuance. And that's pretty normal for a true freshman, don't get me wrong, but Stingley will need to clean some stuff up at the NFL level where, every player is more athletic and more instinctual than the college players. One thing I noticed on Stingley's 2019 tape is that he can struggle to time his jam when in press coverage. This issue is exemplified by the fact that he does not have the longest arms at just 30 inches, and so his wingspan won't always reach the wide receiver easily. On this rep, he attempts a two-handed jam and doesn't make any contact. What's worse is his feet become stationary, allowing the wide receiver to release inside on the slant and separate. Stingley's elite closing speed gets him back in the catch point, but what if that's Tyreek Hill instead of Tyler Simmons? There's some reps where Stingley will allow too easy of a free release and won't make life tough enough for the wide receiver. This is especially apparent on inside releases. As previously mentioned, Stingley is so good at defending throws down the sideline when receivers release to the outside. There, he can use the sideline as an extra defender. But when a wide receiver releases inside, Stingley is counting on his teammate, usually a linebacker, to be that other defender to help him out. And LSU didn't have much other defensive talent in terms of coverage linebackers, so there were a lot of lost reps on slants because Stingley was playing the outside release and giving up the inside release too easily. This was especially detrimental in the red zone, where the field is condensed and corners don't have time to recover back into the play. Make one mistake and boom, that's 6 points. And for all of Stingley's amazing ball production in 2019, he also gave up 5 touchdowns. There's a bit of a boomer bust element here. Stingley's so good at stopping the big play down the sideline, but that leaves him susceptible to the shorter plays, where offenses can nickel and dime their way down the field, or finish drives in the red zone. This doesn't make Stingley a bad cornerback, but it's something to be aware of when watching him transition to the NFL. He'll need to learn a better balance of selling out for the outside release and also being able to prevent inside releases, depending on the coverage called. Not to mention, Stingley also needs to display more consistent effort and technique with tackling. He has some big hits sprinkled in his highlights and has shown he's capable of being a reliable tackler, but this only shows up on, 2 out of 10 tackle attempts. And I'm sure the coaches will not like those odds very much. So we've talked about Stingley's strengths, the little nuances he can refine as he transitions to the NFL. Now, let's talk about the decline in play during the 2020 and 2021 seasons. Stingley's ball production dropped off a cliff, going from 6 interceptions and 15 PBUs in 2019 to just 5 PBUs in 2020 and a donut in both stat columns in 2021. Now, there were multiple reasons for this decline in production. It's partly because Stingley simply played less games and snaps, thus he had less opportunities to make a play on the ball. He was also targeted far less and thus gave up less yardage too. But this decline in play and ball production is also because Stingley simply played worse and allowed a higher passer rating when targeted than he did in 2019. This brings us to the injury concerns surrounding Stingley. He played through numerous lower body injuries in 2020 and in 2021 played through a Lisfranc injury before getting season-ending surgery. These injuries were likely responsible for the decline in play, but that doesn't necessarily make me feel better about Stingley's NFL outlook. Sometimes the best ability is availability. I know it's cheesy to say, but if Stingley cannot stay on the field, then it doesn't matter how elite his ball skills are or how explosive he is. This is the other scary part of Stingley's evaluation. Injuries are so difficult to predict, but when a prospect has already had numerous injuries in the past, historically, it shows that it's more likely for them to re-aggravate an injury or endure a new injury. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, that Stingley can stay healthy for the future and doesn't endure a new injury. I'm really rooting for the guy, and I strongly believe if he does stay healthy, he should be the perennial Pro Bowl cornerback 1 that the Texans desperately need. Alright, that's going to do it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, please do hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and comment down below who you want to see on the next film breakdown. Alright, take care everyone, and remember, the film don't lie!